out of it. But we'll get to that if it becomes relevant in the game. We're going to jump straight into it. First, Ultra Prime on the blue, LNG on the red. We're already seeing that Thresh priority away from Shousey. You have to take this man off of this pick.
Yeah, and we see the Camille ban away from Ale, which, you know, makes a bit of sense, something he's very frequent on picking up. But interesting, the Twisted Fate ban from Ultra Prime, a little bit of a crying special, but they are actually the ones to ban away. And actually in Demacia, you know, the Twisted Fate was banned against them all 3 games in the quarterfinals. So if you want to be banned in that direction, we do see Caitlyn and Jhin banned. Jinx is available if it wants to be picked up. The Thresh isn't there though, so potentially some concerns if you first pick it. It looks like they are going to take it, but this allows LNG to potentially take options that can answer it. Jarvan stands out to me as something that when you don't have that Thresh available can cause a lot of issues for an immobile AD carry.
A lot of issues. We did see Elk pop off on this pick, and it is a massive priority. We may see LNG just respond with the Aphelios or maybe even a Lulu Kog'Maw. They have a lot of options available to them.
Lulu Aphelios.
Yeah, Lulu Aphelios. They could go with either or. They have the Lulu locked and loaded, so that is going to be guaranteed going into Luomao's back pocket, and not too dissimilar to something like a Bard that he is very, very famous for. So I'm curious to see how well he's able to pilot this champion.
Yeah, and coming now for this second pick, there's 2 schools of thought, right? You can take your jungler here because you don't need to pick AD carry, right? Because they've already taken theirs. But that does mean that third pick is pretty much reserved for AD carry, because if you don't pick it then, you're going to get banned out in the second rotation. There's already 3 AD carries missing. So it does put pressure, and it means that if Ultra Prime want to take a mid, for example, LNG have to choose. Do they answer the AD carry or do they answer the mid? It's also interesting that we get a Lee Sin. Definitely something Tarzan is very proficient on. But usually when you see things like Lulu, you expect like the Xin Zhao is something that syncs very well to buff him up. But Tarzan wants that early pressure in this game. And on the other side, Ultra Prime, they're going to take that Corki for Cry. And he had a really good performance on this in the Demacia Cup. Has the package for that Roman potential, but ultimately strong scaling pick.
Yeah, big, strong scaling pick. Little fun fact here coming in over. The last time Luomao picked up the Lulu was in March of 2018. Spring split against Snake Esports at the time. So wasn't a win, sadly, for him. So it's been nearly 4 years since we've last seen this guy play this champion competitively. Very curious to see how he's able to work with it. And like you said, you got the Corki and the Xin Zhao locked in here. LNG now looking to almost certainly lock in this Aphelios. If you don't, you could get the Aphelios and, of course, the Ezreal or even something like the Ziggs banned away from you. So you have to pick up this champion. They will lock that one in. So we got the jungles and the bot lane of the AD carries locked in. Still waiting for the support for Ultra Prime.
Yeah, and so that's where it becomes a little bit, you know, restricting, is the fact that they had to take that Aphelios there. So now they haven't been able to answer the Corki. So for Ultra Prime, you're probably going to be banning away those mid laners. Maybe you ban away a top laner that you're concerned about like counter picking with. There's definitely that as an option. For LNG, though, you can really target the support pool. They're going to take away that Nautilus. They don't want too much pressure coming down onto Aphelios. And obviously, if Nautilus presses on a team fight, it can really shut down Aphelios' ability just to shred.
Last few bans going to be coming in. You'd imagine LNG will continue their pool stripping of the champions in support. Nautilus, maybe even the Leona as another ban. See now, what do Ultra Prime want to prioritize? Wouldn't mind seeing them down away. Yeah, I was going to say the Victor, maybe even something like the Zoe. Just try and take away, you know, things that can do well into this Corki.
Yeah, I think the Victor's a big standout for me. But I think, you know, I think that's the main one. I think other than that, you could definitely look at targeting top laners with the rest of your bans. You can take out Orianna as well, but it hasn't been seeing as much players like the Victor. The side of LNG, Leona is something you could get rid of in this situation, but they're actually going to go for the Jace, so potentially concerned about that being something ZS ends up prioritizing. We'll see what Ultra Prime want to do with that final ban away, and they're going to have an option that they'll blind in this situation for the top lane. You presume, I think LNG will just pick up a mid laner straight away and give Ale that counter pick.
Give Ale the counter pick. Tryndamere going to be banned away as well. Doomby or Ale, or Allah, excuse me, will not be taking either of those in the top lane or mid lane. So,
and it makes sense, right? Because not only have we seen it be good in the Corki because you can run him down, but it's a flex. If LNG picked that Corki on the fourth pick, I mean, not the Corki, so the Tryndamere, you don't know where it's going, and it makes it very hard to adapt. And you essentially could end up losing counter picking both lanes. So they ban that away. Rye is going to be picked up by Doinby, something that can lead into the side lane very well. That play style we do attribute to him, but also scales effectively a lot of AoE damage. And now Ultra Prime, toying with the idea for Kennen, it would make their team fight pretty insane. And if you can get on that back line, both of them are mobile, you'd easily be able to shred them.
The big thing here is you're looking at both squads right now as that Kennen's locked in. It's team fight, team fight, team fight. It's both teams looking to just group together and go for the full 5v5. Both have massive scaling, both have massive AoE. So we'll see where the final pick is going to be here. I do like the Rakan here. It would synergize so nicely with the Xin Zhao and the Kennen, but we'll wait to see what the final pick is. It is going to be the Leona, still a good pick.
Yeah, I like the Leona, and I think it makes a lot of sense. It's the easiest sort of like big lane threat that you have going. Rakan is a little bit too passive into a Felios and a Lulu. Like if you dash in, you'll get polymorph and shredded. So I like something that offers a bit more of that early game threat. And also for roams, you go mid, very easy execution onto the Ryze. And now we're looking at Arley, and it looks like he might pick up the Aurelia, and that could be problematic for a Kennen. Aurelia loves playing into range top laners because you dash through the minions, you dash onto the Kennen and can honestly just beat him up. So it does make things a little bit precarious in the top side.
Little bit precarious in the top side. The Aurelia locked and loaded can snowball into absolutely disaster, and we'll be keeping an eye exactly on how Ala does pick himself up. Of course, massive carry top laner in the league, known for his Camille back when he was called Natural, back all the way back on DMO. So very, very curious to see how he's able to do on this one now. And Ultra Prime, they've got themselves a decent one. I will say, though, that, you know, going with Cryin on this Corki, it is a little bit more lane-focused than it would say roam-focused. So I was curious to see now exactly where he goes and what he's able to make with this champion.
Yeah, it's a bit delayed because you're kind of waiting for package before you can make those, like, impactful roams. But either way, I think the main thing is that they have an advantage in terms of the range, right? When I look at teamfight, you have a range advantage with Jinx and with Corki. The Kennen offers a lot of power there. So teamfights, I think Ultra Prime is comfortable. What I'm concerned about is like in the 1-3-1, Aurelia can be really problematic. In the 1-4 as well, Ryze is there, can also take up a side lane. And on top of that, you know, we can see a lot of early pressure come out. Lee Sin, very strong in the early game. You have the Ryze who's going to be backing you up. If you get this Aphelios ahead, if you get this Aurelia ahead, things start to fall apart for Ultra Prime.
Start to fall apart a little bit, and of course we'll be keeping a very, very close eye on that mid lane, the Corki versus the Ryze. Both have decent wave clear, both have decent options to roam and make impacts across the map. This is going to be a first big test now for Ultra Prime to see what they can do in this split. We've already seen one upset today, maybe we'll see another. If you're wondering what those percentages are, they are solo queue percentages on the win percentage likelihood of these champions. The only one that's really worth talking about is in Chinese solo queue is the Corki into the Ryze, which, you know, I'd argue is, you know, Corki into everybody.
I argue it's also Ryze into everyone. Ryze is not a good solo queue pick, right? He's like similar to Izir, where like he'll be pick ban broken in competitive, and then he'll be like 40% win rate in solo queue. So
yeah, it's a different breed when you're going into solo queue versus you know, comms, competitive nature, the level of player, shall we say. It's not as quite cut and dry as we like to, but we digress. We jump onto the Rift, and we'll see exactly how both these teams want to start. They are going to get a little bit of an invade up here on the top side, so bit of early information available to the side of Ultra Prime, and not really going to mean much else, because when you know that you know, I think it was something that Cagel said on a stream the other day, it's like when you know that the enemy knows that they have information that you know, then you know that you can know what they're going to do. And I'm just like kind of makes sense, but basically you can avoid the information being given over, is kind of what he's saying.
Yeah, you know that they know that you know that we all know. Yep, got you. But, you know, either way, gives you some idea, and the main thing is, Ultra Prime are happy playing this early game a little bit slow, right? They really don't want Tarzan to be taken off. Xin Zhao scales really well now because, like, he's not going to be a hyper carry in the late game. He's not something like that. But essentially, you can soak so much damage because you just pop your ult and it's like you serve a great frontline. Oh, right, in a bit of trouble maybe.
Bit of a trouble. They're going to pop the cleanse off of him as well. The Ignite went down from the Lulu, but Lumao, you can't do anything against this. Elk will just keep running you down. It was like, there's the Ignite. They'll back away, and it's like,
it's a zoning Ignite.
Away. Yeah, it's like low-key like whispering to his AD carry. They're not backing away. What do I do? But this is the power of Leona level 1. The Lulu is great when they hit those, like, you know, later level 6 and onwards, when you have so much kiting and so much shielding and help to give your AD carry. But in that first level, you don't have a lot.
You know, this is what I love about LPL Leonas. I was actually playing a ton of Leona in my solo queue games, and it's actually like something I learned is just that they will go in level 1, right? Often Leona's like a level 2 spike, but they will just E in level 1, and the damage available just poses so much threat. The damage, seeing a little bit of how that matchup can go. Arley fully stacked jumps onto ZS, and yeah, I would not enjoy playing that matchup as the Kennen.
No. Well, speaking of another matchup you might enjoy playing, it is going to be bot side. They're going to try and go for this dive, and this is a little bit of a risk. Yeah, they do have flash available to them. They have no cleanse, though, which means that Light's going to be in a little bit of trouble. He does flash away, but first blood goes over to Elk, and they're swapping the aggro perfectly right now. As Lumau flashes away, can he get himself underneath the tower? No, he cannot! Perfectly executed dive. Ultra Prime get themselves 2 kills, and while that was happening, they didn't even get a TP out of anybody.
Yeah, so well played. The TPs didn't come in. Not sure if they just didn't see the opportunity for the defensive one, but that's the big thing as well. A TP onto the tower will force Ultra Prime to run away. A TP behind will guarantee a turnaround, and that's the difference with those TP changes. But I love the execution, and it all came from Xiaoxi playing aggressive on that level 1. You burn the cleanse and the ignite. The combat summoners, the ones that sort of change the dynamic of the all-in. Yes, the flashes are there, but what's a flash going to do when you're trapped in a tower? Oh, I'm still trapped under tower. And you can see that. That's literally what ends up panning out here. Chelsea, very patient, waits till the last moment, goes for the stun, flash comes in. You're still under the tower, you're still going down. And then they wait a bit of time, reset the aggro. Hacker flashes out, just survives the second shot. And Elk doesn't even get aggro, just flawlessly played. And now you have a 2-0 Jinx. This is a great start for Ultra Prime.
And this is exactly what you wanted to see from Ultra Prime as well. You mentioned it, the bot lane in terms of Elk and making him the carry. This is the perfect start. You're going back into lane against a longsword, against a noon quiver. Like, you just cannot compete right now, and it's going to be disaster for Light because he has no summoners as well.
Yeah, a really good start already. And the fact is, if we find another engage, Ignite is coming up soon. It's Glacial Leona as well. So if you land that E, they're slowed down significantly. You have the stun into the traps. It's just so scary right now for LNG's bot lane with no flashes available. Hacker's coming down bot as well again.
Yeah, but Tarzan is here this time around. They will pop down the traps as well. Tarzan's forced to flash away. Yes, he's here, and it probably stops someone from dying. As I say that, Elk flashing away. The Ignite did come back up here for Lumau. They will back them all the way up. There is a roaming Doonby. We talked about how these mid laners don't want to be mid. They land the Q, but they're not going to follow it in. It's onto Xiaoxi. It would be pretty much a suicide mission there for Tarzan if he did go underneath the tower. So they back themselves away. Doonby is now here. They're pinging out them. Yeah, they're ready for him. They know he's not back in the lane. They aren't going to see him just yet. Now they do know that he's coming in. They're going to try and deny this wave. It's 4v3 in this bot side. They're going to try and jump onto Elk. They will get it, but Lulu is next to fall. It's a 2-for-1 in favor, though, of the side of Ultra Prime. 3-for-1. They may be able to make it a 4-for-1 if they're able to get onto Doonby. He's trying to run away. He just about misses out on the wind becomes lightning. And again, despite the dive from LNG, Ultra Prime have an answer.
What a fantastic read from Ultra Prime. And it's the fact that because they knew Doinby was staying, they knew they're still going to go for this play, they're going to try and dive, it ends up being a 4v4. Except they have the tower on their side. It makes a huge difference there. Again, Xiaoxi making such a great call to go in there. Ends up finding the engage, ends up locking down the initial tower aggro take, which is
not done. Doonby is not.
Roaming.
He's still roaming, but that's just a terrible idea right now because you have the slicing Maelstrom. 1 kill, 2 kills, double kill for Zeus.
He goes bot. They mess up the play, and then he goes top, and they fudge that too. Oh my lord, it is a disaster for LNG. Credit to ZS, he pressed that R real good, but what are LNG doing right now? This is the bot lane play. Chelsea instantly, as soon as things kick off, jumps onto the bot lane, locks them up, and Hacker is able to follow up. And then Doinby's like, okay, I'll come run and help. And except Crying is there, able to provide some pressure. And then there's top lane play. I mean, this is ideal setup for the cannon. Instantly stuns Arley.
Doonby, like, used the Realm Warp and then started walking away from, like, I don't know what he was trying to do there. That was such a question mark ping spam on the top side. And now you're 2,000 gold behind. Now you have 2 kills on the cannon, 2 kills and 2 assists on the Jinx. You've 2 kills on the Xin Zhao. The early game is, you need to stall. You need to try some way of stopping the bleeding because right now you're hemorrhaging.
Yeah, so I didn't explain this clearly when we're talking about roaming. Normally, when your mid roams, you want to win the play in the side. That's the goal. I just don't know how this... Oh, man. You're the one with priority. You're the one roaming. You're the one going with the numbers advantage top, and you're losing the plays. It's kind of crazy, but things, as you said, really bad state now. ZS feeling a lot more comfortable in that matchup in the 1v1. Now he's got a pretty big gold advantage with those 2 kills. Hackett is super strong. And on top of that, the bot lane advantage. Already, I said, one of the big concerns for me is late in the game, the range advantage, right? You have a Jinx, you have a Corki, and you have this great front line. You have the CC from the Kennen Leona to lock people down so they can't get close. That was my concern. And the sort of win con for LNG was like, if Arle is fed, if Tarzan is strong, you can provide threat to that backline. But when they're behind, I don't know, it puts it in a really precarious spot. 7-1 at 8 minutes. 2k goal lead for Ultra Prime.
That is not what you want to be seeing. And the big thing as well, specifically in the top side, like you mentioned for ZS, how he's going to be more comfortable, is that normally when the Aurelia gets that early Vamp Scepter, it's like, cool, I can sustain, I can go in and find no issues whatsoever. But now you're against the Sword Shoes, which you do normally rush on the Kennen, but also an Oblivion Orb that's been picked up so early. So that healing reduction, those grievous wounds, going to be so vital at just stopping this Aurelia from taking over. And they will trade out the Dragon for the Rift Herald, so at least LNG are getting something onto the map. They will pick up a Cloud Drake, so a little bit of early cooldown reduction off of, or ability haste off of their ultimate spells, so not the worst single Drake to take. But again, Ultra Prime falls in their court. They need to be the ones making the plays. They need to be the ones pushing this advantage.
Absolutely. I like the Ultra Prime went for the Herald in the back of that. The Dragon isn't too much concern. And honestly, as soon as that Dragon was taken and you see the second one is a Chemtech and you know it's not a Chemtech Soul, like, oh, well, we're even more happy that we gave the Dragon for the Herald. And now Haka's looking up towards the top side. There is a ward in that brush, and I believe, yep, spotted there. So Arle should just be able to play safe. You can see already Doinby and Tarzan moving over to cover. Haka's just going to reset. No reason for him to overstay. I say that this is a very big overcommit from ZS.
Big overcommitment. They did have the Zins out there to try and maybe go for this. They should be able to disengage. Nice flash away, but the flawless duet is just that. They land themselves the kill. 3 people top. While that's happening, though, you are getting plates into that mid lane. So Cryan is trying to push some kind of an advantage. We'll get a plate. So half of the advantage taken away there by Ultra Prime.
Yeah, and it's just a mistake from Ultra Prime. You should wait until Doinby shows mid before you go for that play. And if he doesn't, then you just reset, right? You don't need to get a kill there. You don't need to throw the Herald down immediately. And I think ZS got a bit greedy because it honestly looked like Haka wanted to back away. But maybe the comms were, okay, bait him in. Bait the Aurelia in. He wants a 1v1, blah, 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 blah. And then they didn't really account for the fact that Doinby was available to roam with that Realm Wolf. Because if it was just Tarzan, I think they would have been able to get out. But the fact that Doinby Realm Wolfed in behind and then rooted ZS, that was the difference maker.
Yeah, the chain CC that you can get with a single target there of the Ruin Prison on top of the Flawless Duets. Big amount of single target crowd control you can bring down. So Ultra Prime not going to be too happy with that transition of play. They are still very much ahead. They are still like Kraken Slayer in that bot side, so they still have a very fed Jinx at this early stage. So they're not going to be too upset about it, but they will be starting to maybe reel it back a little bit, thinking about the plays just a little bit more before they start over-committing to them and maybe losing a bit more of that advantage.
Yeah, I mean, they still have the Herald in pocket and can look for a place to apply that pressure. I honestly think mid is a good call, right? If you make mid a longer lane, it just means it's going to be a lot harder for him to shove out and then roam. So I think you throw it down mid, you get 2 plates, and then on the next Herald, that's enough to take the tower, and that just gives you a massive advantage in terms of the importance of the individual structure. So, have to look in there.
Kraken doesn't have a lot of mana. You need to be careful with that. Yeah, a bit ambitious, but now they have Xiaoxi roaming up.
Herald mid, get the 2 plates, take them. That's what I'd do in this situation. Saying that,
okay, they thought about it. They thought about it. They look like they want to go for it, but they do have their AD carry here, so it looks like they're not happy with just the plates. They maybe want to try and go for the full tower. They're trying to see if they can get it down to at least just 1 more plate without having to fully commit the Rift Herald. The Rift Herald's a little bit isolated. They need to be very careful with how they approach this one. Are taking it down, 1 plate left, down to about a quarter of it, or 1/5 of its HP. It's a pretty decent trade there for Ultra Prime.
You happy with that? And I like the fact they had priority bot, so they even move L-Cup as well to secure that one. I think the decision is right, and now that tower is precarious. If Doinby stops roaming, he leaves that tower in a vulnerable position, but we're sort of just clearing some vision out. They will back away and reset. It's Dragon in 1:30, so they need to be on the map and get some vision control for that one. But overall, positive from Ultra Prime. Other than that mistake top lane, they've kind of kept that momentum going.
Yeah, they've kept the momentum going. They've been able to see if they go. But again, Doinby on the roam, looking to make something happen. This is a little bit riskier. as it is a level 10 ZS this time around, so don't know if they fully want to try and engage on it. They are just going to try and steal away the blue. I like this play from Doomby. This is why we highlight this guy so much, why we think he's such an amazing player for whoever he plays for, because he's just constantly around the map, constantly looking for even the smallest of advantage. If he can steal the blue, he will, and then you don't have that for your team.
Oh, and crying.
Oh, he's fine.
I think Tarzan should be able to ward hop. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
No ward.
He's got no ward. He's not going to need it, to be honest with you. He can just solo him out. He had the gore drinker there. And that's LNG picking up another kill. They're slowly bringing this gold lead back. It was 2,000, now only 1,500. And I don't think there's much Hacker can do here with Lumao and Light all sticking around. Shausi and Elk are in the vicinity. And yeah, LNG think a little bit better of it. There is TPs available for the side of ZS, so don't want to go for an ally. Needs to be a bit careful there. That bit of extra healing reduction on top of the Blade of Rune King is going to do a lot in this early stage.
Yeah, I mean, he wants to fight because he has that huge one-item spike to Aurelia, but it's like, if you miss the Flo's duet, you will just get poked out pretty heavily, and he can sustain off the wave, but he'll have to be a little bit cautious now. Maybe he is moving up towards the top side, just have that realm up. There's no flash for ZS, but I mean, he still has that slicing maelstrom. I think it's just a threat, right? You go in the fog of war, you threaten ZS, but ZS is just trying to pick up that wave, and you see Elk trading pretty heavily on a Light, and you know that early lead we saw, the 2 kills in pocket, mean he has his mythic finished already. Light is just working with that Noon Quiver.
Yeah, just working with the Noon Quiver. We'll have second Drake going over to the side of Ultra Prime. It will be an Infernal Rift, so a lot of value out of that soul, should you be able to get it. We're going to have 30 seconds till the Rift Herald spawns as well. They should be able to get mid-turret as well with Cryan having the package available to him, so he's a little bit careful, and actually tanks up a little bit too much than he wants to, so backs himself away. But that tower is a sneeze away from falling over.
Yeah, pretty low. Wasn't quite able to get it just because of the wave cleared on B. But again, at this point with the last plate gone, very easy to take that one down. Won't even need Herald, but have it available now if they do take it. Should be able to lean that into one of the side lanes. Ryan will use that package just to help cover top lane. And it looks like on the other side, LNG heavily committed to the bot side of the map. There's no dragon available at this time though, so as much as they'll be able to get a tower, I don't feel like this is a great trade. Like, we're seeing Shausi and Elk go mid. They will just pick up that mid tower super easily, right? You're already sort of trading evenly in terms of towers, but because Ultra Prime are getting the Herald as well, they can capitalize even more off the back of this.
Well, the first tower does go over to the side of LNG. They do trade it for the one in mid lane. And again, mid lane is one of those towers that is so highly prized because it's such a short lane. It opens up the rest of the map. So you'd be feeling pretty positive if you're Ultra Prime here. And again, like you mentioned, they just popped the Rift Herald topside, get themselves that tower. That's 2 towers for the price of 1. You didn't lose anything. So again, positive trades here for Ultra Prime.
Yeah, and in fairness to LNG, when you're behind, you kind of have to take negative trades, but even so, Ultra Prime can be completely happy with that. They get those 2 towers down pretty quickly. The mid one, you know, being a central pivotal point in the map, and as you said, short lane makes things a lot better for them. Makes it a lot harder for Doinby to move around when he has to push, keep, and potentially risk things. But Cryan, what's sleeping?
Yeah, caught sleeping. Got hit by the Sonic Wave, and he's dead. Didn't even need the Realm Warp in the end, so that's another little pick. And again, these little small mistakes are just eking LNG back into the game. It's now 7-4 in kills. It's now only a 1,200 gold lead. It's these little small problems that Ultra Prime are going to find themselves in that LNG are going to 100% capitalize every single time.
And I love seeing Tarzan and Luma move around together because it's so hard to skirmish against, you know, an AD jungler and a Lulu who can just buff him up, speed him up. And it's sort of this situation, you know, you buff Tarzan up, you speed him up, and he just goes in and nothing really can fight him easily in the, you know, 1v1 in quotation marks with the Lulu support. So a little bit to secure the top tower, able to answer back. It will be a trade-off on the other side of the map, but LNG are keeping this one close.
Keeping it very, very close. We will see a trade from the top side and the bot lane, like you just mentioned, and then everyone kind of backs away. The problem, I suppose, there it goes. I was going to say for ZS is that he didn't have his Mythic yet. He didn't have the Proto Belt because he did go for the early Oblivion Orb to try and get that healing reduction. Now has it, so in a pretty good section. And actually, you have a rapid fire cannon here for Elk. So we were looking at the start of this game towards the potential carry of Ultra Prime. He is online and ready to go. All he needs is just a little bit of support from his team, and this Jinx will pop off.
I will say, though, we're seeing our late farming up pretty well. We see Tarzan 4-1. They pose threats to the Jinx, right? A big kick from Tarzan, you can essentially just assassinate Elk, and that's kind of a massive factor that needs to be available, because I think in a straight up front to back, Ultra Prime's range and the amount of time that can be bought by Leona, by Xin Zhao, by the Kennen, it will really favor them. So LNG will have to get a bit creative, but the fact that they have that Lee Sin so strong and the fact they've kind of mitigated some of those age disadvantages, because again, they were 2k gold down earlier in the game. They're now only 1,000 gold down, and obviously the later the game goes, the less relevant gold leads are, you know, proportionately. So see Ultra Prime trying to get this tier 2, but I don't think they can go a bit too aggressive here, just fear of getting engaged on.
They're putting down some decent poke, though, and forcing the rest of LNG to think twice about whether or not they could defend it. They will have another wave, another shot at it. You can see there's a bit of a question marks going over between LNG and LNG and Ultra Prime, both checking that brush to make sure no one was in it. Absolutely no one from either team. And now, honestly, I think this tower is just dead with a Corki and a Jinx, with the rapid fire cannon giving you that extra little bit of safety. You cannot defend it, and this is just them using that early power with the Jinx having those 2 items to push that advantage.
Yeah, and it's so hard to engage, right? Because if Lee Sin can fly in and get a kick, that's great. But honestly, you kind of want Arlo to be in a position to flank. You kind of want Doinby to get a range. It's the range disadvantage that's the thing here. Closing that gap is such a massive thing that LNG have to work out, a problem they have to solve if they're going to win these team fights. Because until they do, they'll just get harassed, they'll just get poked. And the second someone's low, you sort of question, can we even team fight? If Jinx gets a reset, probably just going to be we're going to be in such a bad spot.
Yeah, going to be a little bit of a bad spot if they're not able to keep it going for themselves. And still waiting to see. Apart from that very explosive early game, we've not really seen a lot. And I will say, Tarzan has all of the kills. Tarzan is 4, 1, and 0. He has all of the gold right now, and it's not really the carry you want to see on them. As we now see Shousey defending against this blue will be given over to Cryan. So nice capitalization there from Ultra Prime. They also get themselves their second Drake of the game. And this game feels like it's more on Ultra Prime to throw it than it is on LNG to be able to win it outright.
Yeah, I think LNG are posturing themselves to look for mistakes. Someone oversteps, someone's too far forward, someone's out of position. That's when you'll find them. But Ultra Prime so far playing things. They did have those mistakes earlier, but you know, they used the package to kill the dragon. They're slowly approaching these towers and poking it down with rapid fire procs. They are playing this one as it should be, right? And credit to them for that. I also see that Cryan's going for the more poke heavy build, right? Going for the sort of long-range sniper Corki build, and honestly, I like that here. The range is a big thing. If you're in range to auto, you're probably a bit too close, so going for those massive rockets to poke out Light, poke out Doinby, I really favor that.
I love this from Ultra Prime as well. They recognize with the guns that Light had in mid lane, they cannot defend that tower. They cannot take that tower to answer back for what Doomby took in top side. So they rotate bot, they get that turret, they do not lose out in the trade. So it's still 1 tower to 1 tower, an inner for an inner. Again, this game is just kind of becoming a game of trades right now. It's going to be a little bit of a while before we see either side really fight for an objective. There's no real reason for Ultra Prime to go for Baron. There's not really any reason for LNG to fight around a Drake. There's no soul point on the cards just yet. So I think both teams are happy to keep scaling, keep getting to a point of which they will have themselves an opportunity to get back into the game.
Yeah, I mean, Ultra Prime, though, happy with this. Just more influx of gold, right? All this trade of towers just mean both teams are getting more gold. But you look at their carries and them getting more items, it's just going to be a really difficult situation. Doinby has gone for the Thimblewint, I believe, which is a bit more for...
Yes.
A bit more bruisery Rise build. And I believe he's going to go a Frozen Heart after. So he'll be bulky, right? He'll be able to absorb damage a lot better. But it's not quite, you know, the Rise we had last year where you just, like, do an EQ and absolutely one-shot everyone. There's going to be a lot less AP or even mana scaling available, especially since the new Seraphs isn't really as a desirable option, since it doesn't give you percentage mana that scales so well with Rise's kit.
Yeah, the big thing as well with the Fimbulwinter, if you're wondering why he's taking such a tankier item, the passive on it, or the unique passive on it, is the when you immobilize or stun. So obviously the Rune Prison coming out, you are able to use your mana to do extra damage off your spells. So it is, and it also gives you a shield strength. So it is a pretty decent item for surviving. You can see his health bar already coming up to about 3,000, which is pretty nuts for a Rise. It's going to be machine gunning and getting all that damage down as well. 2 minutes 20 until the dragon spawns. That would put Ultra Prime onto Soul Point. We now see the split push coming in with the Aurelia and the Rise. And this is where the game starts to get a little bit more tense. This is where the game starts becoming about small, minor decisions that can throw off either of these teams.
Yeah, this is where LNG are comfortable, right? When they have a spread map situation, RLA can pressure ZS, and you have to send Cryan from Ultra Prime to go and answer that top wave as well. So it keeps them in a position where LNG are comfortable. If they find Prios in the side lane, they can sort of rotate it in. But the big problem is this mid-tier 1 still being available, right? Because, Ultra Prime can keep moving forwards because they have this tower very close by them, right? They go forwards, LNG can't re-engage because the tower is so close. And if the side laners get priority, rotating in doesn't have as much value when that tier 1 tower is there to protect them. So LNG really need to find a way to crack this tier 1 for the time being. Doesn't look like there's too many options. It's a minute 20 until that dragon. Once again, Cryan's going to have the package available. And again, short range comp against a package, not a fun time.
Not a fun time, but there is a deep ward just sitting there. Thank you so much, observers, for showing them on the top left-hand side of the jungle. So LNG have an option to get a flank with this Aurelia, with this Rise, if they so choose, and maybe they try and force the issue. They now have cleared the vision, but there is Scuttle vision in favor. Doonby running away, gets flashed on, has to flash away. The Everfrost is good. The TP comes in. The kick is great to keep ZS away, but now he jumps straight in on top of the back line. Light in a lot of trouble, gets hit with the Mega Inferno Bomb. That's a good Moonlight Vigil to keep him away and keep his damage safe all the way, all on the top of the bush, though. They're going back in on top of this fight, and Doonby now in a lot of trouble. They thought they had the fight. They thought they could go back in for the re-engage, and Elk is just flashing forward, feeling like he can get something more. Light answers in kind, and now Allah trying to turn this one around a little bit. He gets the Corki down. They're able to keep the Jinx over the wall. The Jinx is pretty much free hitting, but look at this damage coming out from Light. Look at Light just put in the work right now. It's a 3 for 2 in favor of LNG, but these health bars are low.
Ultra Prime solo lane is really not wanting them to win this fight. Honestly, just such a massive overcommit. And you got to question, was it necessary? And as I say that, Arle's coming in. Not sure you're getting out of this one. No summoners available. I think Shao-Xi needs to go on a brush and Hex Flash. Hex Flash is the only way you're going to kill one of them. Looks like he's not going to find the window, and Elf will go down. This should just be Baron for LNG.
Yeah.
Absolute disaster. And it's ZS and Cryan. I have no honest idea what they were going for in that situation. Just really poor, and I'm sure we'll get the replay and I can point out why, but for now the Baron is being picked up by LNG. Cryan's finding the package, 5k HP. It's ambitious.
It's ambitious. He's dead straight up. If he stays there, he's going to die, so he has to back away. Baron secured by LNG. They now have themselves a 2,500 gold lead. They have themselves priority over this dragon as well, because they can go straight to it, and that's going to be LNG back in control of this game.
Yeah, Elk isn't even alive yet, so there's no way they contest this one. And honestly, we were talking about LNG were waiting for a mistake. They got one. They got handed one on a plate by Ultra Prime, and they did a great job of capitalizing.
Yep, that's going to be a second dragon for LNG. He's going to delay Ultra Prime from the soul again. And that's where the split push gets real dangerous.
This is the creator. Well, we'll see the replay first, but I just really don't understand this decision making coming out. Just from, like, why are you going for Light in this situation as ZS? Because he gets kicked in, but you're not going to kill Light, right? He's got cleanse. You're not going to finish him off. He now gets taken out. And the whole team funnels into this choke. It's an atrocious position to be in. Honestly, I think ZS should have flashed over the Baron wall and gotten out that way, because they chased in this choke, but then they start to turn things around, right? Elf's free hitting, Elf got reset. But this over chase is just ridiculous, and Cryan is especially guilty here. This flash over the wall doesn't kill Light, misses the rocket, gets instantly deleted, and then what can Elf do in this situation? He can't get over the wall. Anytime anyone gets low enough to kill, they just walk out of range. It's so easy for them.
So easy. But the positive thing for the side of Ultra Prime is, despite losing the Baron, they have got a massive amount of wave clear. They have 3 items now onto Elk's Jinx, so just going to be able to one-shot those waves even with the Baron buff. But with the pressure you have in the side lanes, you're going to be able to keep taking these camps away. That's going to keep Tarzan with 100% kill participation just so relevant in these fights. And now we can see Light trying to see if he can get something going. Look at that, 2 auto attacks onto Hacker, and he's nearly half health.
Yeah, a lot of damage here. And critically, something we talked about throughout the game was this advantage Elk had early on the Jinx. Light actually managed to close the gap and is now equal in items. And that 3-item spike is so punishing on the affiliates, especially the Lulu buffing you up. We have Doonby, super tanky, Frozen Heart, Fimblewind finish, has the Mig Treads as well. And because of that MR he's got, the pen build available to Cryan isn't going to do nearly as much damage as you'd like. Now, Tarzan's looking, and Hacker, you're just taking so much damage.
Yeah, Hacker needs to ult, but I think Hacker's dead. Yep, Hacker did not respect the pure amount of damage that was coming out. Like, Hacker has no real tank items. He even had a Zhonya's or a stopwatch to use, but now we can see Tarzan behind the wall gets the Jinx, and that's the perfect combination that you want to see. Tarzan is just carrying this game, 5-1 and 6 on this Lee Sin, and has not looked like he's missed a beat. Now they rotate towards the bot side with the Realm Warp. This could just be game.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone from Ultra Prime oversteps and dies, they will just end, right? The Baron buff is keep the minions tanky. You cannot risk things in this situation. ZS does have the ultimate to make things difficult, but it's really, really precarious. They're going to try and end, so I think ZS just has to go in an ultimate.
Yeah, ZS just has to try and go for something. They will take the Nexus turret #1. They'll back away. Their Baron buff has worn off, but your base is in tatters. Ultra Prime have no real answer to this. It's a 7,000 gold lead. It's, you know, sorry, 6,000 gold lead. And
No, it's 7. It's 7.
Oh, 7. My maths was correct. I'm just, I'm doubting myself.
In yourself.
Yeah, I didn't have enough faith. I didn't have didn't have enough faith in me. But that's why you're here, Ox. You have the faith in me. You know, don't believe in yourself. Believe in the me that believes in you. That's what you have to say. Gotta get my anime references in there somewhere.
It's just the lead they've been able to accrue off this Baron. Like, losing a few towers is fine, but like Hacker stepping up here, you know the tower's gonna die. What are you doing? And then Tarzan, and I can't even flame out for this. Credit to Tarzan for finding this beautiful angle. Blast cones over, flash, warthog kick. There isn't counterplay there, right? If you have flash and you're fast, you can get out of that, but L didn't have his available. Really good execution, takes out the Jinx, which is such a massive threat, and now there's a 7k gold lead. LNG are in control, and they're right back where they needed to be. You know, we talked about how the early game was going to be a bit of a disaster. We talked about the range disadvantage. When you have this much of a lead, you can just force on the enemy team.
Yeah, it's just so easy, and now we wait to see what you can do on the side of Ultra Prime. You're lost one of your Nexus turrets. Your split push cannon isn't really going to be able to do a lot against the Aurelia or even the Lee Sin or the Ryze, to be perfectly frank. You have a GA now onto Lights Aphelios, so he's going to be even harder to try and take out of this game. And look at this build from Doonby. I'm curious to see at the end of this game how much damage he did, because if he did a sizable chunk while going pretty much full tank, I'm calling BS on that, because that's just not fair.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with Ryze. He's such a weird one because he scales with mana. He will just do damage even if he has non-damage items, right? He's not going to do as much damage as if he built full AP, but he's bulky, so he can get more combos out more consistently. He can step forwards more without getting chunked. A lot of value in that. You see like 3-item spikes coming in for crying, a lot of damage potential if you can land the poke, but that's a problem, right? Poke compositions work well when they're ahead because you poke, and the enemy team are struggling to find an engage. When the enemy team's ahead by 7,000, they don't need a good engage because they're so far ahead. They just need unengage. And as soon as you step too far forward to try and poke, they will jump on you.
Yeah, important to note, ZS does not have Zhonya's. He has a broken stopwatch, so not going to be able to go into stasis. There are 2 Zhonya's available for Tarzan and for Allah. So Allah's just going to be able to walk into here, and oh, there we go. There's the Vanguard Jet on the 3. They're going to be able to kill off Crying. That's it. That's the game. There's nothing else they can really do about it. ZS tries to go in with the Slicing Maelstrom. Will get the GA out of the Aphelios. Might be a little bit too early to say any celebrations, though, for Ultra Prime. The Aphelios is dead. This Jinx needs to pop off something fierce if they want to try and make this work, but they're not going to be able to. There's just too much CC, too many people getting down in on top of your face. ZS not going to be able to survive off that either. They're going to be able to TP in, end the game. LNG will take 1-0 in this best of 3.
You know, and it was a stomp after that initial sort of advantage that Ultra Prime had. As soon as LNG got that winning team fight, they got the Baron, and it just completely snowballed out of control. Really decisive from LNG, but honestly, a little bit surprising how Ultra Prime just managed to throw it away so much. I was really positive after the early game, and I think there was some great ideas of how to play the map. I think the early gank as well, really instrumental, but then they just completely fell apart. Chelsea, strong start, but then it was just that play around the Baron, just over aggression, and it very much felt like the hype had gotten to them, and they just